Dota just dropped a new patch and it made me have to rewrite an entire script. Dang it. But I don't want to do that, so here's a compilation of some of the most noteworthy changes in the patch, and by that, I mean most changes that aren't just straight up numbers tweaks. Let's get right into it. Abaddon got a new innate. When he damages enemies, he applies a debuff that reduces enemy healing effects if they're low on HP. Anti-Mage got a new innate too. His attacks now slow enemies based on how much mana they're missing. Scepter will also reduce his blink cooldown and empower his next mana break hit. This hit will burn more max mana and prevent the target from regenerating mana for a few seconds. It's an undispellable debuff, so go ham. Beastmaster got a new innate as well, making him always block damage versus non-hero units. And whenever Brewmaster respawns or comes out of Primal Split, he gains a 20% attack damage bonus for a short period of time. This effect lasts longer when he respawns though. Bristle finally got a good facet. He can activate his Warpath to gain extra bonus damage and movement speed per stack as a temporary buff at the cost of his vision. He also got a new innate giving him bonus damage and debuff amplification against heroes behind him. Brood's Necrotic Web's facet now only applies if Brood's in the same web. CK's Irrationality facet now lets him pull randomly silenced targets instead of having a 33% chance to do nothing. Darkseer's innate got changed so that it won't be lower than the average of his strength and agility. Death Prophet's Spirit Collector facet got changed to grant her spirits from her own death and while she's dead, and she got a new facet, Morning Ritual, giving her a budget Kunkka buff. Doom got a new facet too, Impending Doom, which increases Doom's duration every 6.66 minutes. This is double in Turbo, and thank God. Earth Spirit gets Ready to Roll, a facet that lets him roll over allied heroes to give them a move speed buff. It also empowers the roll to make it like the Remnant roll, but better. Shaker's Slugger facet now applies to every enemy killed by any ability, and not just Enchant Totem. That sounds like a lot of fun. He also gets a brand new innate, leaving a gravestone when he dies. It blocks movement and provides vision, and it lets Shaker get experience from it. Elder Titan gets a new innate, empowering creeps and buildings to deal more damage when they're affected by Glyph or Roche Banner. Ember Spirit now has the Immolation component of Flame Guard as his innate, and his shard increases the damage and radius and grants it to his remnants. Enchantress got a new innate, making all neutral cramps deal extra damage to enemy heroes, making her an amazing counterpick against jungling LC, which I mentioned because Iron Talon is also back in this patch. Enchant also doesn't guarantee a neutral token anymore though. Bummer. Void now has to choose between Chrono and Time Zone, with Temporal Impunity seemingly being scrapped. Huskar got a new facet, Incendiary. With it, his fire spears now deal max health damage each second, but they also cost Huskar's max health to use. Kunkka's Rum buff is now his innate, and when he takes damage from a hero building a Roshan that would reduce his health below a certain threshold, he gets a weaker version of the buff we all know and love. Torrent Storm is gone, and thank fucking God. Scepter now upgrades Ghost Ship, letting him create a fleet of 2 ships at the target point on a 2.5 second interval. Each ship now also fires cannonballs at the sides, dealing bonus damage. Legion got a new innate too. She gains increased regen when fighting heroes that have a higher level than her. Lifestealer now just has to choose between Rage and Corpse Eater, and his Feast passive now gives him permanent max HP whenever he kills a creeper hero, and killing a hero gives him more health. Lina got Combustion for an innate, and it scales with Laguna. Every time Lina deals a set amount of damage, she causes them to overheat, dealing damage to their allies in a sizable radius around them. This ability also deals less damage when overheating an illusion, and dealing a ton of damage in a single instance will cause it to proc multiple times. Lion's Mana Drain slows more when the target has no mana left to steal, and Lone Druid got a few changes too. He got a new facet that makes him only be able to use 3 item slots, but the passive stats he gets from those items are drastically increased, and his new innate lets him reroll a neutral token every tier, while his bear will always share his currently equipped neutral item. Could this mean double Book of the Dead? Nope, they share a cooldown, so don't get any ideas, unless you get Refresher. Luna got her Lunar Blessing moved to her innate slot, and the swirly Shangling glaives she got from her glaives got moved to a new ability, Lunar Orbit, which is just the previous Moonglaze active. Lycan got a new facet, the Alpha Wolves, which boosts the max level of his wolves by 2, but lowers the max level of his other abilities. These wolves have 2 new abilities, Hamstring, which is an attack modifier that applies a root and causes hamstrung enemies to take bonus damage from Lycan and his boys, and Hightail, which gives the wolves haste, phased movement, evasion, and attack speed when it's active. Past level 4, wolves from a shard are also buffed. The tree and cliff effects of Magnus's run through facet are moved to be part of the base ability. Now Magnus just has to choose between reverse polarity and reverse polarity. When Marcy gets lifesteal, it now also heals her bodyguard target if she chose this facet. Dusa got mana pack removed. Good, that facet was trash. She now has Venomous Volley, which applies a poison to every 5th auto. This slows movement, attack speed, and cast speed. Mana Shield can no longer be leveled like a regular ability and now scales with Dusa's level. Mystic Snake no longer slows, and she gets a new ability in Gorgon's Grasp. This causes her to fire a bunch of arrows in a line rooting targets hit, making them unable to turn, and causes them to take damage every second. Mirana's still garbage. Monkey King's Wukong's Faithful facet now increases his ult duration, and Tree Dance now goes on cooldown when taking damage from any source, including from creeps and neutrals. Muerta got her Ofrenda change. It now passively gives her an attack speed buff when she's near the Ofrenda, and that's great. It also causes it to no longer be destroyed when Muerta respawns. Naga's Deluge now caps enemies' max move speed to 225 when hit by it. This means they cannot move faster than this, even when hasted. Nature's Prophet's Ironwood Treant now gets increased vision and move speed and can no longer be cast in an area. Depending on how you look at it, that last part can be either good or bad. His Wrath of Nature now hits all visible targets instead of having a set number of bounces, and his shard gives him the same Treant multiplier as Spirit of the Forest when calculating damage for Treants. Nyx Assassin's Mana Burn facet no longer scales with with his ult, no longer has a damage threshold and now only triggers from his abilities. His innate will also reveal enemies in Fog of War, and his shard got reworked, now just making Vendetta apply a break. And while I'm not really covering talent changes, he got a shit ton of agility talent at 25 back, and let's fucking go. Omni got a new shard, causing his purified target to be purified again after a few seconds with a weaker effect. Repel now always grants bonus magic res, and his Hammer of Purity is a full-on attack modifier now, so it can no longer be spell stolen nor proc magic stick. Guardian Angel is now a point target ability with an AoE, so it can cast it at an area instead of just one dude. It no longer has charges, and got a new scepter upgrade, making the cast range global with a bigger radius and allowing it to affect structures. It also doubles all healing effects during the duration. Phantom Assassin's Blur now disjoints projectiles, and Phantom Lancer gets a new innate, making his bonus damage from items partially grant him bonus base damage, letting him be a viable rapier carrier. Primal Beast Ferocity facet got reworked, and now Pulverized now grants the AoE bonus every time he smacks, and this AoE bonus applies to all items and abilities. Puck's Curveball facet got a quality of life change, showing a preview of the orb's trajectory, lowering the skill floor for a really good facet. Pugna's Rewards of Ruin facet now also grants him bonus spell amp per destroyed allied tower as well. So did Pugna do 9/11? Was it an inside job? Razer's Thunderhead facet now also lowers the Storm Surge strike cooldown during his ult. Sand King got his Ags absolutely butchered and well deserved. Instead of causing stunning spikes to appear during Sandstorm, it creates stinger attacks to appear during Epicenter during each Epi Pulse. This also works if he has the shard. Shadowfiend's Necromastery no longer increases his max souls when he gets a kill by default. That effect is moved to his lasting presence. Silencer's Brain Drain now steals less intelligence, but as long as the target was debuffed by Silencer, they'll grant him the int when they die, even if he's out of range. Spirit Breaker's charge got tweaked, making it ramp up to max move speed instead of granting it all at once, and his Bull Rush bonus from his facet is determined from his current move speed instead. Storm Spirit's Shock Collar got a change, causing the debuff to redirect the enemy's next attack onto themselves and applying it with the Overload charge. Techie's Squeeze Scope facet now gives him bonus projectile speed per point of attack speed. Templar's Void Blades facet got reworked, causing the Melt Hit to apply the bonus damage and armor debuff to enemies inside blade distance. She got a new innate too, letting her team see Roche's respawn timer, which is pretty fucking nuts. However, her traps no longer grant vision in the Roche pit and have a hit counter instead of an HP bar. Tiny got his toss to no longer pierce magic resistance given by debuff immunity, and this is honestly more of a bug fix than an actual change. Troll's new innate is just his gimmick of shifting from melee to ranged, and the passive buffs are a new passive Berserker's Rage. Melee form gives him extra move speed, armor, and a snare chance on his attacks, while his ranged form gives him a chance to maim, applying a slow to move and attack speed and dealing bonus damage. Tusk's Drinking Buddies can now be set so that Tusk is pulled to his ally instead of pulling his ally to him, and that's good because before it was pretty awkward to use. And Underlord's ultimate no longer provides a buff after using the gate. Instead, Underlord got a new innate, giving all allied heroes a damage reduction and move speed buff after teleporting, and the bonus is stronger when in Fiend's Gate. Undying Ceaseless Dirginate can no longer be refreshed, and Venom's Plague Carrier facet got changed to make his ward health scale based on the carrier's max health, but let's be honest, you're still probably gonna take Patient Zero. And Septic Shock is his new innate, causing his attacks to deal bonus magical damage based on how many debuffs from Venom the attack target has. His Scepter makes its effect deal more damage and causes his ward to apply the extra damage as well. Viper got the Predator innate, making his attacks deal bonus physical damage to enemies based on their missing health. And that's an interesting choice of name considering current events, but moving on. And Visage got a new facet, giving him extra gold when he kills a target with Soul Assumption. How much gold he gets depends on how many soul charges he used. With his Soul Assumption multi-shot talents, it's free real estate. He also got a new innate, giving him cooldown reduction when he's not taking damage. Void Symmetry facet got removed, and his Resonant Pulse now always creates a physical barrier. He got a new facet called Call of the Void, causing him to spawn Ether Remnants when he exits to simulate, creating them at the 3 portals furthest from Void, and these remnants always face the center and have reduced pull duration and damage. Weaver got a new innate, giving him bonus attack range for a short time every time he uses an ability, and thank God because this means he doesn't have Gemini at level 1 anymore. Wind Ranger's Tailwind facet got completely nuked, now she just has to choose between Focus Fire and Whirlwind. And finally, Wraith King's Vampiric Spirit innate now decreases respawn timer by Wraith duration, and his Scepter no longer reduces his respawn time either. Moving on to talent changes, AM also replaces his mana drain slow talent at 15 with an increased slow from his innate, and his level 20 blink cooldown talent has been replaced with a longer mana void stun. Orc Warden got a new 25 talent, replacing magnetic field affecting creeps and buildings to flux silences when target is alone. Drow's lifesteal talent at 15 got replaced with bonus attack range. Faceless Void's alt AoE 25 talent now depends on whether you took time zone or chrono, with the time zone talent being bigger. For Kunkka's 25 talent, the Ghost Ship Fleet got replaced with a bonus spell AoE. Luna's plus 20 lunar blessing damage talent at 25 got replaced with plus 1 lunar blessing damage per level. Deuce's mana shield damage per mana talent at 25 got replaced with an extra Gorgon's Grasp volley. Omni's purification cooldown talent at 10 got replaced with a longer GA duration. And PL's crit talent at 25 was replaced with one that lets you get even more base damage from bonus damage items. Pugna now also has to choose between Netherboard health and Netherblast cooldown at 10. His 15 talents are a choice between extra health and bonus Decrepify move speed for allies as well. Queen of Pain's attack damage and Shadow Strike attack speed talents got swapped between 10 and 15. Razer's Storm Surge cooldown talent at 15 is now just a plus 12 strength talent. SK's talents also got changed. His Sandstorm damage at 10 got replaced with Stinger Slow, and at 15, he now has to choose between Burrow Strike cast range and Sandstorm damage. Shadow Shaman now gets his Hex Break talent at 15 and Shackle duration at 20. Silencer also got his Last Word talent replaced with a longer Curse duration, and his Undispellable Curse talent was replaced with more Last Word damage and slow. Skywrath Mage at 15 replaces his Lifesteal talent with a stronger Concussive Shot slow, and Sniper's attack range talent got replaced with Shrapnel damage. Oh, and Storm now gets an Overload damage talent at 10 instead of bonus attack range when overloaded. And there are a lot of spell changes too, with certain abilities getting their interactions with Break and Linken's completely changed, and I'm not going to go over each and every one because this is meant to be a quick video, but there are a few here that are pretty big too. Some examples of abilities that can be broken include Bloodseeker's Thirst, meaning he can't go Zoom anymore, Phantom Assassin's Immaterial, in case you didn't know, wasn't disabled by Break, but it is now, and Shadow Shaman's Foul Play, meaning you won't have to deal with that annoying damn chicken. And there are quite a few abilities that had their behavior with Spell Block and Reflection to be completely changed, but some of the big ones are Tusk's Walrus Punch now goes through Linken's, Lion's Spike and Sand King Burrow also completely ignore Linken's, that's pretty crazy. Huskar's ult, Tusk Snowball, and Sven's Axe now break Linken's on cast rather than upon arrival, much like Spirit Breaker's Charge. Dazzle's Poison Touch ability will now trigger Linken's even if they're not the primary target. Interestingly though, your Poison Bloom facet still won't get blocked. And bouncing spells like Witch Doctor's Cask will break Linken's and your main target won't be affected, but the following bounces will still continue. And that's every major hero change for patch 7.37. Note that this video intentionally does not cover numbers, tweaks, and items. I also left out a majority of the new abilities that can be broken because honestly, a lot of them don't really come into play anyway. I mean, when are you gonna care as Puck when you get your Puckish broken? Seriously. And that's it for this video. Be sure to check out the patch notes for the full changes. Leave a like if you learned something, a comment if you want to say something, and subscribe if you haven't already. That's all for now. Ace out.